of the car. She was back a few minutes later, plate in hand. "It's off. What do I do with it?" Eleanor was still working, sweat trickling down inside her blouse. The final screw was rusted and didn't want to move. She'd almost given up when it finally came loose. It was times like this when she hated Steve. They'd only been married a few years when he'd been sent to Vietnam. He'd died there. His body never recovered. It wasn't his fault, and yet, awful as it sounded, Eleanor did blame him for leaving her all alone. He wasn't around to be a father to their child. He wasn't around to earn a living, cut the grass, fix the toilet, lift whatever was too heavy, all the millions of things that now fell to her. After removing the gas can from the back of the station wagon, Eleanor handed Lena the car keys and the license plates. "Drive the wagon back out on the road and wait for me." "I should do it." She grabbed for the can. "Just this once, Lena. Do what I ask." Eleanor waited until the wagon had backed up and was idling along the side of the road, then began to toss gasoline all over the interior of the Pinto. Taking one last look at the quiet cornfields, the immense, uncaring blanket of stars above her, she struck a match and tossed it to the floor under the steering wheel. It caught instantly, flames crawling across to the passenger's side, then up and over to the back seat. She watched for a few seconds, mesmerized by the sight, then shook herself out of her reverie and ran for the wagon. "Drive," she said, fixing her eyes on the windshield and the darkness beyond, terrified that, like Lot's wife, she'd turn to a pillar of salt if she dared look back. Chapter 1. Present Day. Just before 1:30 a.m. on a windy, early December night, as the man behind the polished mahogany bar in the Limehouse pub issued his usual last call for drinks, part of a massive oak split from its trunk and crashed into the roof of the restaurant. Jane Lawless, the owner, was home in bed when a buzzing cell phone awakened her. "You better get over here," came her assistant manager's voice. "Why? What's going on?" She swung her legs out of bed and ran a hand through her hair, glancing back at the woman lying next to her, still fast asleep. She got up and walked into the hall. "I was in the bar when I heard a loud noise. I mean, the entire building shook," he explained about the tree. That was why, at 8 the following morning, Jane found herself standing in the parking lot behind the restaurant, a 2-story log structure on Lake Harriet in South Minneapolis, watching a man in a boom lift chainsaw his way through the front branches, working back toward the heavy limb that was resting on the roof. Even though Jane's insurance would pay for the damage, which looked worse this morning than it had in the darkness last night, it was a headache she didn't need. "What time do you open today?" asked the foreman, a heavy-set older guy who held a hand over his eyes, shading them from the sun. 11. "We'll have this all removed and cleared out of here by then. You'll probably need a structural engineer to climb up and look around." "Already called someone," said Jane. She didn't think a structural engineer would be necessary. She had a roofing company coming by later in the day to assess the damage and give her a bid on what the repair would cost. "Windy night last night," said the foreman. "Thing is, that oak was decaying from the inside. You can't just look at a tree and determine something like that. The whole thing should probably come down." "Up to the park board," said Jane. The wooded land that surrounded her restaurant wasn't her responsibility. "People are like that, too," said the foreman, gazing up at the boom lift. "They might seem fine, but inside there's nothing but rot." Jane turned to look at him. "I know. A bit early for philosophy." She smiled, and he smiled back. "No, I hear you," she said, "and I agree. People aren't always what they seem." She figured he was thinking of someone specific, which was none of her business. "Look out below!" yelled the guy in the lift. He waited until the 2 men on the ground moved back, then carved off a bunch of larger branches, lowering them to the asphalt with ropes. The workers stepped in and began to cut them into smaller sections, which they dragged over to the woman handling the wood chipper. Watching the tree removal was far more entertaining than the weekly spreadsheet waiting for Jane in her office. From around the side of the building,